Hello, and welcome to episode 5 of What If the Vader and Starkiller story continued. We got a lot of big plot points today. We've got some major reveals and some major things that will seriously alter the story moving forward. So y'all want to stick around for this one. So I can't wait to show it to you guys, and let's begin. Also, another thing I haven't mentioned in a lot of these videos, but if you haven't seen the rest of this series or the original What If Vader and Starkiller Killed Sidious and Ruled the Galaxy series, I would recommend starting from the first episode of What If Vader and Starkiller Killed Sidious and Ruled the Galaxy. Otherwise, none of this is going to make sense to you. So I would definitely go back and rewatch them if you have not already. But yeah, without further ado, let's begin. We open aboard the Millennium Falcon as we go further inside to see Anakin Solo and Tahiri Vela sharing a brief discussion via hologram. As they talk, we can see Anakin trying to hide a blush as he speaks. Once we get back from Nar Shaddaa, we'll know where my crazy uncle is, and then we'll save my dad and Jaina. And then what? Tahiri asks. Anakin shrugs, not entirely knowing the answer himself. We'll return home and everything will probably go back to normal. Tahiri nods, perhaps not receiving the answer she hopes for. And then what? Well, it's about time we got to catch up. Anakin smirks. Tahiri blushes, although the hologram does not make that apparent to Anakin, as she smiles. I'll see you when you get back. I can't wait. As Anakin turns off the holo projector, he turns to see Leia, leaning against the side of the Falcon door. Anakin quickly panics, but Leia's calm demeanor calms him down in kind. I always like Tahiri myself. Anakin slowly begins to relax as Leia takes a seat next to her youngest son. I know I'm not supposed to be falling in love. Anakin, don't forget I'm married to your father. That's why you, Jason, and Jaina are here. You can love. It's what makes a Jedi what they are. Just as long as you manage your emotions and don't give in to obsession. But Jason said that attachments are forbidden, Anakin explains. Leia lets out a quick sigh as she tries to explain. Jason has a more traditional view on Jedi morals. While I may disagree, I love him still, as I hope you do. Take it from both your master and your old mother that if you truly care about Tahiri, you should take that chance. Anakin smiles as he gives his mother a hug. We cut to inside the Ziost temple, as we see Luke, standing over many textbooks, the Sith holocron from the Malachor Prime activated. As he focuses, he sits on the ground, focusing in deep meditation as his body levitates off the ground. He focuses hard as he calls upon the same forbidden dark side power he used on Lor San Tekka's corpse, titled as Force Binding. He searches now through the galaxy, as we see this almost outer look of the Force's energy. We see that across the galaxy there is darkness, a dark tint in the energy's clouds, while in other systems there is a blue tint. Zios' shadow is a thick red, and as Luke searches the galaxy, he finds one planet with a thick blue. He searches forward and sees Kashyyyk and Leia's Jedi Temple on the surface. Now, he sees the temple as if he were looking through his own eyes as he spectates around the temple, moving his spirit inside the temple walls as he watches each and every Jedi. Finally, he stumbles upon one young Padawan. It doesn't really matter who this is, but we're just going to say Gana Ryaso, because that's a Jedi who'd be alive at this time. Luke focuses harder. The young Jedi's will is harder to break than an already dead corpse, but Luke's will and power is leagues ahead of this Padawan. We cut to Ganner as he begins to walk down one of the temple halls alone. He begins to hold his head in pain as we see flashes of dark energy swarming him. We see the Padawan struggle for a long time before finally he breaks in a quick shout of pain. We then see him look towards the screen, his eyes a burning yellow before they fade back to their original color. This body is no longer under the control of the Padawan, but under the complete possession of Luke Skywalker. Now under the control of the apprentice, Luke scans the room, getting used to this new body as he walks around. We cut to the shuttle with Starkiller, Han, and Jaina as they overlook a planetary hologram of the planet Jakku. On the surface, Jakku's just another dust ball to pass by. Another desert planet? How many of these goddamn sand wastes does this galaxy have? Han asks. Jaina smirks at it, nodding in agreement. Starkiller stays focused as he continues to explain. But if we look deeper, Emperor Palpatine hid an Imperial storehouse on the planet. Nobody knows why, but the compass says that Galen Merrick is there. And I sense the storehouse isn't completely abandoned. The question is, who's using this storehouse? Han asks. Palpatine? Thrawn? Galen? I don't think it's Galen, Starkiller explains. I sense that he was in great pain there, great danger. He wouldn't be if he was truly in control. Jaina gives a quick shrug. I guess the only way to figure out what's going on is just to go there. Now hold on a second, Han blurts. We don't know what we're getting into here. We need to prepare and come up with a plan. Well, we already have the storehouse's outline. And I bet the hyperspace travel should give us enough time to think of a plan, Starkiller suggests, as Jaina nods in approval. Han simply sighed and gave up arguing as he allowed the two Force wielders to take to the plan themselves. We cut to the Millennium Falcon again, as we see Leia and Ahsoka talking via hologram. Something feels off about all this, Leia admits. Ahsoka folds her arms in confusion. What do you mean? I feel some kind of disturbance in the Force. It's unlike anything I've ever felt before. Ahsoka nods, feeling it too. Whatever it is, we must be cautious. You know, things were a whole lot simpler just running around the palace back on Alderaan, Leia admits, remembering her childhood with the Organas, before Palpatine had been killed, before Leia had been found herself on the run being trained as a Jedi. Ahsoka smiles sweetly and nods in agreement. You had your whole life changed in a matter of a few days, Leia, she reminds her old apprentice. I bet back then you never thought you'd train to be a Jedi with an old lady like me. Leia nodded with a smile. I don't even think I knew what the Force was back then. The two shared a brief laugh of nostalgia. My life was changed too, Ahsoka said. I never thought in a million years I'd train the daughter of my former master, or an apprentice at all. Did you ever think we would redeem him? Leia asks. Ahsoka nods slowly. I had doubts and concerns that we could, but I trusted in the Force, and I trusted you, and in the end that trust paid off. In the end, despite the changes, despite the struggles, it was worth it, Leia said. Ahsoka smiled sweetly. I may have been skeptical at first with training you, but seeing you grown up, both as a woman and a Jedi, seeing you have your family, building your Jedi Order, has been some of the best parts of my life. Don't forget, Master, you're part of that family too. Ahsoka nods as the two share a silent smile before the sounds of Chewbacca's roars catch Leia off guard. Looks like we're about to approach Nar Shaddaa. You had best go, Ahsoka responds. May the Force be with you. The hologram dissipates as Leia goes to the ship's cockpit, looking at the planet below as she punches in the coordinates to the nearest docking bay, as Chewie pilots there. They land the ship and enter the city as they begin looking for clues. Lando said the Shadow's blade was aligned with the Black Sun, Leia mentioned. I will go and find their base and interrogate the leaders. The rest of you should split up. The last time we split up, we lost Dad and Jaina, Jason fired back. We're going with you. Leia sighed, not in the mood to argue right now. Very well. Anakin and Chewbacca can go to the streets and find information. Jason, you can come with me. We'll keep in contact and we'll stay safe. Once Leia and Jason go off to find the Black Sun's headquarters, Anakin and Chewie think up their next move. Chewie grumbles something in Shrywook, and Anakin responds with, I don't think I'm old enough to go into bars, Chewie. Chewie doesn't seem to care, as he goes to the nearest bar to get a drink, as Anakin follows quickly behind. Once they enter the bar, they look around, trying to find anyone who could be a member of the Shadow's Blade, or anyone who can help. "Hey kid, you might want to hide the whole Jedi persona around here," a voice calls out, as Anakin turns to see a man with a thick dark beard, long hair, a white shirt with a pauldron, and brown leggings. "Is that a warning or a threat?" Anakin asks. "Just a suggestion," the man clarifies. "Jedi aren't exactly a favorite around here." "I don't plan on staying long," Anakin explains as he folds his arms. "I'm looking for a group called the Shadow's Blade." The Shadow's Blade. They're a nasty group of terrors," the man grumbled. "I don't know if it helps, but I tracked one to an alleyway not too far from here. I could show you if you want." Anakin nods. "That would be quite helpful." And the man gets up, and as he does, Anakin feels something strange. The Force is rather strong with this man. "I never got your name, sir." "The name's Kyle Katarn. Now we should get moving. The Shadow's Blade never stays in one place too long." We cut to Jakku, as we see the shuttle land just outside the storehouse, which is located literally in the middle of nowhere. Han, Jaina, and Starkiller scan the base, but to their surprise, they find no guards, no fighters, no airfield cannons, nothing. They land the shuttle just outside the storehouse and prepare their weapons, as Starkiller looks to Jaina. "Jedi kid, you might want this just in case." He tosses Jaina one of his blue lightsabers as she clips it onto her belt and thanks him. The three move towards the storehouse as Starkiller examines the door. Once realizing the door's lock can only be opened with the Force, he raises out his palm as the door slides open. The three search through the halls, seeing massacred stormtroopers and officers scattered about. Jaina and Starkiller hold out their lightsabers to illuminate the pitch-black room. Starkiller closes his eyes, trying to reach out to Galen. "We're close." Suddenly, there is a sinister laughter that enters the room, as everybody falls back on their defenses. "Stay close," Han mutters. The room goes silent, except only for the hum of the two lightsaber blades, before suddenly a loud scream unleashes as a distorted figure tackles Starkiller to the ground and attempts to maul the rogue clone apart. Jaina and Han try to fight off the figure before they are knocked back by a blast of the Force. The distraction gives Starkiller a temporary moment to push the figure off of him with a jolt of Force lightning. Igniting his lightsaber and wielding it in his reverse grip stance, Starkiller moves forward to attack the creature before he sees its face. A distorted, damaged face of Galen Merrick. The figure's entire body is twisted wrong, and it's missing a left arm that never even seemed to grow in the first place. "Master Merrick?" Jaina asked, shocked by what she was seeing here. Starkiller shakes his head. "No. This is a clone." "Another one?" Han asks. Finally, it dawns on Starkiller on what is happening here. This isn't just some storehouse. This is a cloning facility. "But I thought Kamino was the only place with cloning," Jaina brought up. Starkiller shook his head. "That we know of. This must have been one base we didn't know about yet." The Galen clone lunges at Starkiller, who swiftly strikes him down and cuts the body in two. It looks like the cloning process was imperfect with this one. The three scour the rest of the facility, Starkiller and Jaina using the Force to sense where the true Galen Merrick is located. Finally, they sense the proper location, as they find a massive door, too thick to cut through with their lightsabers. They use the Force to open it, revealing a massive white cloning lab. They see several different Bacta tanks holding the dead carcasses of Jedi of old. The corpses of Mace Windu, Kit Fisto, Sindralig, and Saizi Tin, while other Bacta tanks show these deformed, monstrous, torn-up clones of the dead Jedi. Jaina looks around, seeing dozens of Yzalamari creatures, which prevent her from using the Force. Finally, she sees one tank in the back of the lab, where we see Galen Merrick, still alive, but barely conscious, with several of these screwed-up-looking clones crawling around the ground near the shattered testing tubes. Starkiller rushes forward, cutting down the hostile clones with his lightsaber, while Han and Jaina stay back, waiting for the room to clear before freeing Galen from his own tank. Galen collapses to the ground, hacking and coughing as Jaina and Han help him up. He looks around, not entirely familiar with Han or Jaina, but he does see his original clone, the one he had dueled on Malachor, the one he had freed from the wrath of Vader. What's going on? We were about to ask you the same thing, the Starkiller clone admits. There is a long pause as Galen gathers his breath, trying to find the words to best explain what is happening here. I have a lot to explain. We cut back to Nar Shaddaa as Anakin Solo, Chewbacca, and Kyle Katarn walk to the alleyway, where Katarn had seen the Shadow's blade hanging out. We can't tell that Anakin still has something on his mind, that this Kyle Katarn person is still very strong with the Force, but he still doesn't know why he isn't a Jedi. That's when Kyle Katarn speaks up. You wonder why I'm not a Jedi just because I have the Force? Wait, you could sense that? Anakin exclaims, quite surprised. Katarn nods. I have the Force too, kid. Jedi, just like you sensed. Then why aren't you a Jedi? Or a Sith, or any kind of Force-aligned group? How did we not discover you yet? Kyle lets out a chuckle as he thinks back. Well, that is quite the interesting story, isn't it? Well, it started with my father, who had the Force, but he didn't end up becoming one of those Jedi. He got killed by some Imperial Inquisitor named Jarek, which caused me to defect from the Empire. Anyway, I stole his dad a piece about the Death Star, and after that, I just kind of decided to go on my own way of life. Anakin thought to himself for a long time, before asking his next question. So why did you choose this then? To be honest, I did think about being a Jedi for a while, Kyle admits. Hell, the ghost of some Jedi who knew my father even tried to motivate me. But in the end, I kept struggling with the dark side until I finally realized that it doesn't really matter what side of the Force you're using. I doubt the Jedi would feel the same about that. There's a long pause of silence before Katarn holds up his hand, motioning for Anakin and Chewie to stand behind him, as they all spot several members of the Shadow's Blade walking around just outside the alleyway. They pause, watching the group before Kyle sneaks up and goes to talk to them. Hey fellas, looks like I got kinda lost. The Shadow's Blade members all turn around and aim their blasters at Katarn, who innocently raises his arms in a surrendering position. Who the hell do you think you are, boy? Just some guy who wants to have a quick chat, Kyle excuses. The Shadow's Blade members prepare to fire their weapons, but Katarn, seeing that this will only end in a fight, shoots first, eliminating most of the thugs as the rest fall back. Or you can make this hard for me. The thugs attempt to flee, but are suddenly held in midair, being pulled back by Anakin Solo as Chewbacca knocks them out. Well, it looks like we got ourselves some conversational material. We cut back to Jakku, as Galen has his rescuers sat down, as he tries to explain everything. I was still searching for my clone when I discovered a revelation of the Emperor's old experiments. Here he built a lab where he used the dark side to produce clones, but due to the difficulty of cloning Force wielders and the fact that all these Jedi are dead, the clones turned out mutilated and unstable. Most didn't even survive. Then Sidious was killed, and Thrawn discovered this place and began making an army of his own. Instead of using the corpses of lost Jedi, he captured me and used my DNA instead. But what about this clone? Jaina asks as she points to the Starkiller clone. If all Force-sensitive clones are so unstable, why is he fine? Subject 1138 of Darth Vader's cloning experiments was purposefully made to be obedient, Galen explains. But even he isn't fully perfected. He carries emotional imprints from my memories that haunt him, Galen explains. To that, the Starkiller clone nods in agreement. The real question is, why would someone like Thrawn want a clone army? Han asks. "And why has he left this place abandoned?" "Thrawn is a perfectionist," Galen explains. "Even if his strategies are unbeatable, he is still vulnerable in a straight fight. Imagine having an army of Force wielders under your control that nobody in the galaxy knew about. The Empire's most elite death squad. Unfortunately, as you've seen, my clones turned out unstable. Even Thrawn's planning couldn't have predicted the dark side's unnatural insanity." "So what do we do now?" Jaina asks. Galen finally forces himself to stand, stumbling a bit as he does. "We need to find out if there are any more of these cloning labs. Thrawn may have set up more, and we have to put an end to them." We cut to the Jedi Temple on Kashyyyk, where we see Ganner, the Padawan who we know to be possessed by Darkseid Luke Skywalker. But the other Jedi don't know that. Along with several other knights and Padawans, as Ahsoka is teaching some kind of lesson. Once they're done, the corrupted Padawan looks at one of the knights' lightsabers. "That's a mighty fine weapon. Mind if I try it out?" "Oh, not quite yet, young one," the knight boasts. "We only get our lightsabers when we're knights." I'm sorry, Master, I forgot." The lesson ends, and everyone leaves. However, we pan over to Ahsoka for a brief moment, who senses that something is wrong. We then cut to the Jedi Knight, who Luke was just talking to, as the controlled Padawan approaches him. The Jedi Knight is initially startled as the seemingly innocent Padawan approaches him. "Do you need something else, young one?" "Your lightsaber." "I'm afraid not. I understand how impressive they may look to you, but they are only The knight begins to choke with fear as the Padawan places his hand outwards, telepathically entering the Jedi's mind and tormenting him with horrific visions, as the Jedi can do nothing but strain in pain and fear. "Don't you get it, young one?" Luke smirks. "I will shatter this temple, and when I do, its remains, the corpses of your brothers and sisters, will mark the site of your grave." The Jedi gasps for a second before dying as Luke retrieves the lightsaber, places it on his belt, and with the flick of his wrist, ignites the corpse into flames and burns the evidence before leaving to make sure nobody saw him. And that is where this part ends. Well, we got Galen Merrick back! He's been gone since the beginning of the continuation series, but he is in fact back now. And clearly some stuff's been going on with Thrawn that we didn't know about. So basically what I was going for with the Thrawn cloning storyline is that before Disney purchased Star Wars and before the expanded universe was canceled, there was this series being wrote following a Jedi of Luke's academy named Jaden Korr. And the story was focused around this Jaden Korr believing himself to be some kind of clone that was part of Thrawn's old experiments. And he came up against like a clone of Kyle Katarn, he came up against a clone of himself. It was crazy. But that story never got finished. We still don't know if Jaden was actually a clone made by Thrawn or not. But it's a kind of it's one of the more obscure legend stories, so that's why I'm explaining it. But that is kind of what my inspiration for this whole Galen Merrick and cloning storyline, which actually, by the way, Jaden Korr was also supposed to be in this series, but I ultimately cut him because I didn't want to overload the cast, because we got a pretty big cast of characters. So I didn't want to overstuff people, and it was really down to Jaden and Kyle Katarn, and Kyle Katarn was an easy pick, both because more people know who he is, and also because I think he would ultimately serve more to the story because his presence is going to end up mattering more. But yeah, I'm so excited to bring Galen Merrick back. There's still so much to wonder. Like, what is Luke going to do in the Jedi Temple? Is Ahsoka going to figure him out? Where's Anakin Skywalker? He's still missing. And what is this clone army gonna do? So, yeah, stay tuned for next time, and I'll see you guys around. Peace.